Good afternoon, class. Please stand for the prayer. Amen. Before you sit, please arrange your chair and pick up the pieces of paper. So, good afternoon again, class. So now, let's start for a new discussion. Before that, I have a classroom rule first. First is come to class on time. Be ready to learn, listen and follow instruction. Raise your hand to speak. Don't answer in chorus. So my objectives is define indigenous people, create a poster that portrays daily living of indigenous people, show cooperation by participating group activity, develop appreciation by showing support for indigenous people. So, let's begin for a new discussion. So now, I present a quote that indigenous strength roots of identity. So class, what emotions or thoughts arise when you hear this quote? So, Miss Temeras, okay, very good. So, how this quote change your own perceptions about indigenous people? So, number 31, okay, very good. So, for me, roots represent the historical and cultural foundation, and the strength embodies resilience, perseverance, and pride. And identity is acknowledged the distinctiveness of indigenous people or cultures of indigenous people. So now, in your own idea, what is indigenous people, class? Number 1 from the boys. Okay, very good. So now, our topic for this afternoon is all about indigenous people. Indigenous people. So, there is no commonly acknowledged meaning of the term indigenous people. Jose R. Martinez Cubos study on the problem of discrimination against indigenous population presented a working definitions of indigenous communities, people, and nation. So, indigenous communities, peoples, and nations are these which having a historical continuity with free invasion and free colonial societies that develop on their territories, consider themselves distinct from other sector of societies now prevailing on these territories or parts of them. So, when we say indigenous people, na sila mga laing-laing culture na lahi sa ato ang dili mga indigenous people na sila historical of different way. So this historical continuity may consist of continuation for an extended period reaching into the present of one of the following factors. So mao ni ang mga following factors sa indigenous people. First is occupation of ancestral lands or at least part of them. So nasa occupation sa ilahang ancestral lands. Common ancestry with the original occupant of this land. Culture in general or in specific manifestations such as religion, living under a tribal. So na sila mga tribo, members of indigenous community, dress, means of livelihood, lifestyle, etc. So na sila laing-laing tribo, like ilahang sinutan is lahi siya. Then language, whether used as the only language as mother tongue, habitual means of communication at home or in the family. So napod sila gigamit na language na di ta makasabot, depende kung kana atong language atong mahibawan. So last is residence in certain parts of the country or in certain regions of the world. So dito sa Pilipinas, dahang kayong mga indigenous people, for example, is mga kanang Igorot or something na lahi silag sinutan. So the indigenous people possess one or all of the following characteristics. So napod sila yung mga characteristic. First is they are descendants of the people who inhabited the land or territory prior to colonization. Second is they possess distinct social, economic, and political system, language, cultures, and beliefs that are determined to maintain and develop distinct identity. So mo tangi ko no gani ana sila mga cultures o tradition. Then third is they exhibit strong attachment to their ancestral lands and natural resources contained to them. Last is they belong to the non-dominant groups of a society and identify themselves as indigenous people. So also indigenous people suffering both in developing and developed countries human rights abuses. So ma-abuse pod sila nya lack of quality of education tungod kay murag di sila ganang may eskwela or tungod sa ilahang poor living conditions o malnutrition and unemployment. So kung mga bless sila trabaho di pud sila madali-dali o makasod tungod sa ilahang pinurmahan. Depende kung na sila education kamao sila mo eskwela. And then according to Educ, he said that even their languages, their value system, culture, tradition, and their way of life is being continuously vulnerable to their destruction. So ma-distract gihapon sila sa ilang mga languages. So in focusing education, so mag-focus ka sa education, indigenous people generally lack of access to education because they usually stay in places that are quiet from far from school. So layo sila sa ilahang mga eskwelahan, so di sila ganahan mo eskwela because of their marginalized status in the community. So also teachers are not trained to teach indigenous people, so they do not speak their language and unable to provide materials, activities that are relevant of the uniqueness of their culture. So ang mga teacher po di po maka-provide og materials kay lahi ra jud sa ilahang kanang himo kanang mga gamit nila dito. So lack jud sila og education samot na kung wa sila kwarta o di sila ganahan mo eskwela. So because of this, indigenous students who enrolled will drop out or lower achievement. So what did sila mahuman? So education is a right and a means of self-improvement. So that will equate to better lives for indigenous people. So the Declarations of Rights of Indigenous People 2007 declares that indigenous people have the right to use, pass on, invigorate their languages, traditions, beliefs, values, systems, cultures, and ceremonies, and way of writing to next generation of children through education. So, ang indigenous people na sila yung rights na makayo sila sa ilang mga cultures, languages, and traditions. So, I hope you learn from my discussion. So now, for your application class, I will divide you in 2 groups. Each group will make a poster that portrays the daily living of indigenous people. So the rubric is relevance to the topic 15%, teamwork and collaboration 15%, content 10%, originality 10%, creativity 10%, the total of 60%. So I'll give you 5 minutes to make your poster that portrays daily living of indigenous people. Okay, thumbs up. Please pass your poster. Okay, very good. You did a great making of poster. So for your assessment, please get 1 whole sheet of paper and answer this. So first is copy this puzzle first, then read and search these words from the puzzle. So first word is tradition, second word is justice, third is culture, fourth is indigenous, 5 is land, and 6 is aboriginal. So I give you 3 minutes to answer. Okay, done. So please pass your paper. So please, we will check this assessment. So atong pangitawon is ang tradition. So the tradition is dara ang indigenous na words. Then nara diri ang land. Then aboriginal na words. And dara ang culture and tradition. And the justice. 6 points na pass. Okay, now so for your assignment, write a short reflection paper on what you've learned from our discussion today. That the topic is indigenous people. So for your concluding activity, situation, please listen. Meet Ima, a 9-year-old student. She is ignorant and she shy of her skin color. So the question is, if you are Ima's friend, how can you support her to boost her confidence about her skin color? So number 5 from the girls. Okay, very good. So for Miss, I will support Ima by I'll give a positive affirmation. So I tell Emma she's beautiful inside and out. So I also exchange cultural exchange means learn about Igorot tradition and share your own. Then third is role model. So introduce Emma to successful Igorot figures. And fourth is listen actively. So allow Emma to express feelings without judgment. Skin positivity, discuss diverse skin tones and beauty of standards of Emma. So I hope you learn from our topic today, class. Goodbye and thank you.